Good afternoon. Um, Welcome to another Supreme online session. My name is Tanya Newton, and I am going to be taking you through the topic of emotional intelligence. So, a little bit about me. As you would have seen, I am a psychologist. I work here at Supreme, work at a variety of schools, and I very much enjoy the interactions that I have and working on the various subjects. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump straight in and we're going to talk about what exactly is this thing we refer to as emotional intelligence, or as you might sometimes see it, EQ. And emotional intelligence is actually looking at how smart you are in terms of dealing with emotions. I know you would have probably seen the term IQ, and that usually has to do with your ability to learn or your ability to understand things. And emotional intelligence is basically intelligence, but applied to dealing with emotions. Okay, we're gonna jump straight in. What I want to give you first is an overview of the various topics we are going to be looking at as the weeks go by. So we're dealing with emotions and feelings, and we're going to split that into two parts because it can be pretty heavy, and it can involve a lot. So we don't want to do everything in one session. We're also going to be looking at what exactly emotional intelligence is in terms of developing your self-awareness, in terms of self-management, in terms of your social awareness, in terms of your relationship management or dealing with interpersonal relationships, and also in developing relationship patterns and maintaining relationship patterns. So as we look at what exactly emotional intelligence is, the first thing we have to do is actually define what emotional intelligence is. So we're going to look at the definition now. And emotional intelligence can actually be defined as our ability to recognize, understand, and deal with our own emotions. Next one. To understand how others might feel and why they might feel that way. And also, ways we can manage our emotional reactions. And it's actually broken down this way because I'm going to use these three things to guide the discussion from week to week. The first part we're going to actually talk about is recognizing emotions. So in terms of recognizing emotions, we are looking at being able to identify what emotions look like. And when I say what emotions look like, what I mean is we're looking at how it is that we actually look at others and are able to pick up on what emotions they might be expressing, whether it be in their faces or whether it be in their body language. But we're also looking at how we can recognize emotions within ourselves and what exactly does a particular emotion look like for a particular person, or for yourself, I should say. Next thing is being able to identify what emotions feel like. And this is particularly important because sometimes we will experience things, we'll experience emotions, we'll have these feelings that we can't exactly put into words. So one example I like to use is when you think of getting this uncomfortable feeling down in the bottom of your stomach, you might be in a situation that elicits that, or I should say brings out that particular feeling, and you wouldn't be able to put it into words. You can't say this is X emotion. But as you develop your emotional intelligence, you learn to be able to identify what emotions actually feel like for you, because they might not feel the same way for every person. And in being able to identify what they feel like for you, you are then able to express to others or to help others to understand this is what exactly I am experiencing right now. And the next thing you want to look at is managing emotions. So how exactly can I manage my emotions? One of the first things I need to do is to pay attention to what I feel. And like I was saying just now, I might be feeling, let's say, a little uncomfortable in a new situation. And I might say to myself in this new situation that I'm fearful, or, well, I shouldn't say that. I should say more like the physical feeling. So I might be in the new situation and my body feels uncomfortable. I can't sit still. I can't think. I can't eat. And then I can try to figure out what emotion I'm experiencing. And by pinpointing that emotion, I can then decide how can I deal with this emotion? How can I manage this emotion? The next thing is paying attention to what I see in others and what others say. Emotional intelligence isn't just about being able to pick up on what you're experiencing, it's also about being able to tell what others are going through. So, what I see in others will give me cues as to what someone else is experiencing. So, let's say I see someone and they're stomping around and they're kicking down things and their face is kind of bent up. Well, not like my face, because that wouldn't exactly be me being angry, but the person might have an angry look on their face, and I can maybe pick up from that they're angry. And then once I know that that's the emotion they're experiencing, I will know how I can interact with them. And I can also use what others say. So if you have a person who you look at them and they say they're fine, but you ask them what's wrong, or you keep pressuring them to say what's wrong, it can either be that you're picking up that something is wrong, or perhaps, like myself, you the person might experience a phase where their emotions might not necessarily match what they're feeling, and it can throw people off and it can make them think that something is wrong, but the person might just be fine. And the next part of managing emotions is paying attention to how I react. So let's say that a person is acting as if they're angry, or what I read off of them is that they're angry. By paying attention to how I react, I can pay attention to how I react to their anger. I can pay attention to how their anger makes me feel and what I choose to do. And it can also give me cues as to what I need to do when I start to experience a particular emotion. Because I'll use anger again. For some of us, we think that we're not supposed to get angry, we're not supposed to feel angry. But when we feel that way, we'll try to shut it off or put it away. And in doing that, we have a different type of reaction to whatever the situation is. So we're going to move on now to why exactly it is important for us to have for emotional intelligence to exist. And the first thing is that all of us experience emotions. All of us. It really doesn't matter if we are older or if we're younger or if we're students or if we finish school or if we're working. Each one of us experience some type of emotion at some point. The other thing is that emotions can actually affect how we think, and how we think can also affect our emotions. So, like I keep saying, if you approach a situation and you feel a way, you might have thoughts that affect that situation. If, for example, I have a test coming up and I know that it's a subject that I'm not particularly good at, and I start to feel fearful about how I might do on this test, thinking that I might fail, I might give up. I might say, what's the point of trying? Like, why would I even bother to study because I'm going to fail anyways? And then on the other hand, if I acknowledge the fact that it's a subject I'm not very good at, I might feel, let's say, maybe hopeful, and I might put more effort into studying. I might try a little harder. And then in the end, I might not get 100%, but I certainly wouldn't get 10%. I might get 50. I might get 70. The next reason that it's important is that our emotions are actually reflected in our actions. So when you have something coming up and you're very, very excited about it, you will act a particular way. A person doesn't have to ask you if you're excited. They can see it in your face. They can read it in your body language. They can tell based on how you speak. And that is one of the ways that our emotions are actually affecting our actions. And the final reason is that emotional intelligence actually affects our relationships. And when I say relationships, I don't just mean boyfriend and girlfriend or husband and wife. I really mean that it affects how we are with our peers when we're at school. It affects how we are with our friends. Um, if, for example, you're very good at tuning in and empathizing with other people, you will know how to treat them and how to interact with them and how to respond to them when you notice they're experiencing a particular emotion. Okay? So, jumping in now to actually recognizing, understanding, and dealing with emotions. And this is the first part of that definition we're going to be dealing with, right? So, as we try to recognize, understand, and deal with emotions, we actually have to define what emotions are. Because by defining emotions, we actually have a better understanding of what exactly it means to experience an emotion. So emotions are defined as a natural instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstances, their mood, or their relationships with others. And I'll say that again. It's a natural instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstances, their mood, or their relationships with others. And you'll notice that I have natural and instinctive highlighted because they are very important when you are thinking about emotions. I know for a lot of us, we will experience certain types of emotions and we'll either tell ourselves, well, there's no point in feeling that way, or there's no point in reacting that way or acting that way. But at the end of the day, whenever you experience an emotion, it's supposed to cue you in to something about yourself. So when you get into a conversation with somebody and whatever it is they're saying or whatever they're doing during that conversation may affect you and make you angry. It cues you in that there's something about that conversation that you are responding to. And when we overlook those things, it can actually make a situation worse sometimes. And the other part I want you to take from this definition is that circumstances, mood, or relationships with others can affect our emotions, right? So the situation that you're in, which is the circumstance, the mood you're already in, or your relationship with others, how close you are, how much you dislike them, how much you like them, those things can actually affect what emotions you experience. The next thing I want to look at now is telling you a little bit about the various emotions that we have. So very, very often, these five are the emotions that we pick up on the easiest, right? So everybody knows fear, everybody knows sadness, everybody knows happiness, everybody knows anger, and everybody knows disgust. Fear is usually um, guiding us based on a situation that we're in that we are unable to manage. Maybe it's brand new, maybe it is something you're used to, but it still makes you feel a little bit afraid. Sadness, well, that's self-explanatory. Happiness, self-explanatory. Anger. Disgust is one that we all can recognize, but we might not necessarily label it as disgust. But these are usually thought to be five of the most basic emotions because they're ones that are easy for persons to recognize no matter what cultural background they come from, no matter what um, no matter the way that they're socialized, no matter the way that they're brought up. These are things that are easy to identify across cultures. But then we have more complex emotions. Well, not just identified across cultures, but also we're able to label them very easily. We have more complex emotions. We have these emotions that um, we it's hard to label them, and aside from labeling them, it is also very difficult to explain them. So one of the ones that I usually talk about is anxiety. And anxiety is an emotion that all of us feel at some point in some way. It can come from being in a new situation. It can come from being in a difficult situation. Remember earlier I was describing having that uncomfortable feeling down in the bottom of your stomach. And that is one of the ways that you can tell that you're feeling anxious. And as the table says, anxiety actually can come from anticipating something or waiting for something to happen. And it can be a combination of anticipation and fear. But it can also come from being very, very excited about something. And yes, that has to do with anticipation, but it's not that you're fearful. It's more that you are kind of excited about what's going to happen next. So you're anticipating what is going to happen next. Another good example is pessimism. So pessimism, according to the table here, it will be a combination of both sadness and anticipation. And anticipation, as in you're waiting again to see what the outcome might be, but in more of a sad way, where you kind of expect that something bad is going to happen. So you kind of don't play and you expect that the worst is going to come from it. And you also have optimism, which is the opposite, where you have a more joyful way of looking towards the thing that is going to happen. But these are just a few examples of what are more complex emotions, and we'll get into those more as time goes on. So now is the part where you actually get to do a little bit of interacting. I can't see who's there or who's able to respond, but what I want you to do for me is get out pen and paper, or if your memory is really good, you can look at this list of emotions and keep it in mind. So the emotions that we have here are disappointed, worried, jealous, frustrated, and confused. I'm going to leave those there for a few seconds so that you can actually see what they are, because as we go from picture to picture, I would ask you to do something with that list of words. All right? So hopefully you've got those words in mind. So your task now is when each picture comes up, I want you to tell me or write in the chat or I don't know, write down on a piece of paper what you think each picture is trying to illustrate. What emotion does each face show, or what emotion does each face attempt to show? The other thing I want you to notice is that there are 5 emotions, but there are only 4 pictures. Right? So we're going to start with the first one. What? Well, you look at this picture of this little boy sitting on this football, and I want you to think of what emotion is this picture attempting to show. What do you think this little boy is experiencing? I'm going to let it stay there for a few seconds to give you a chance to actually look at it and go through your list and decide on what emotion he's experiencing. All right, so we're going to go on to the next one now. I want you to look at this young lady, look at her face, and tell me if you can pick up on what emotion this picture is supposed to be showing based on the list of emotions that were there. And again, I'm going to leave it there for a few seconds so that you can see the picture and go through the list and try to choose an emotion that you think is represented. All right, we'll go on to the next one. And look carefully at this one. Now, this one is a little bit tricky because there are 2 different responses that can actually go for this one. And I'm willing to accept either of those responses. So you don't have to say one and then think that that one is incorrect, right? But I want you to take a careful look at this image, look at this little boy, and tell me what you think he's experiencing in this picture. And the last one. So take a careful look at this little boy's face. I actually tried this out earlier with someone, and what they thought the picture was expressing is actually not one of the ones on the list. But I want you to look carefully at this picture and tell me which emotion from the list of emotions I gave you do you think that this picture is supposed to illustrate? Just going to give you a few seconds, and then that will be the end of this activity. Okay, so we're going to move on now. Um, so when you do the activity, what I want you to think about, sorry, not what I want you to think about. I'm actually not going to give you the answers this week. Um, I will be checking to see if anybody responded. And what I'll do is when we come next week and we start to go more into emotions and feelings, I'll actually let you know which ones we got right. And then we'll talk about what different faces might express and how difficult it can be for some people to actually pick up on what emotions they see in others and how easy it actually is for other people to pick up on what emotions they see in others. Okay? But what we're going to do now is kind of review what we would have looked at today, right? So what have we covered? We defined what emotional intelligence is. We mentioned that it actually is um, recognizing, dealing with, and managing emotions, and also looking at how these emotions can help us with our interpersonal relationships. The next thing we've covered is actually why is it important. And like I said, it's important to know your, sorry, not to know. It is important for how you deal with others. It is important for recognizing how you might feel. It's important for recognizing how you actually feel in different situations. And it's also important for helping you to understand how you react in situations, because once you can understand how you react in situations, you can understand how you act or how you can modify that behavior or how you can help others to understand why you might act in a particular way. And the final thing that we would have looked at was defining what exactly emotions are, right? Like I said, as we go through the different weeks, as we go through the various subjects, I'm always going to go back to the definition of emotional intelligence and try to keep you guided by those three things, right? Okay, so that brings me to the end of my presentation for today. I hope that you had fun. I hope that you learned a little something. If you didn't learn a little something, hopefully you will learn something next week. Maybe everybody that's watching is fully aware of their emotional intelligence or very in tune with emotions and with understanding others. Right? Thank you for being here with me. I look forward to seeing you next Thursday. And I also look forward to seeing you tune in on Monday when CC is going to be back. Right? Bye, guys.